When Christopher Nolan made Memento in 2000, Guy Pearce and Carrie-Anne Moss were established actors, but hardly household names. When Batman Begins entered production, Christian Bale was on the fringes of Hollywood. Heath Ledger won the part in The Dark Knight despite a Golden Boy image. In every case, the actors were well known but surprising choices. Here, in the Odyssey, Nolan dips into his Rolodex and stuffs the film with the trendiest actors he can find. That these actors are overexposed is an understatement. Take, for instance, that I was forced to endure a trailer for Spider-Man: A Brand New Day before the Odyssey even started. UK actor Tom Holland was all over the screen clad in the red spider suit. A few minutes later, he was doing his best to look convincing as Telemachus, the son of Odysseus. This problem in the Odyssey is not just confined to the main cast either. Of late, Nolan has taken to hiring major actors for even the smallest roles. Logan Marshall Green pops up 160 minutes into the film. Before that, Bane's Scottish henchman from The Dark Knight Rises is on the screen. And before that, James Remar has a turn as a seer in Hades. Throughout the movie, you're constantly seeing people or faces that are very, very recognizable, and it just takes you out of the immersion. True, Nolan is insulated from the overexposed media landscape by virtue of the fact he doesn't have social media or a smartphone. This means he's not seeing the celebrity YouTube shorts and insufferable Instagram reels that dominate our feeds. But he must know that he's risking immersion. If you invest millions in IMAX cameras that break new ground in picture clarity, why destroy that verisimilitude with actors that are nakedly promoting themselves on social media all the time? Despite the controversy, actually, I think Lupita Nyong'o is one of the better choices. Charlize Theron does a decent job as Cersei, but by contrast, Matt Damon as Odysseus absolutely does not work. I like Damon. I loved him as Tom Ripley and Jason Bourne, but he doesn't really have the face or the manner of someone who lived 3,000 years ago. Anne Hathaway as Penelope is overwrought. John Leguizamo kept reminding me of his character from Summer of Sam. And Robert Pattinson, well, I couldn't get past the bad haircut, though at least he seemed to be enjoying himself in his role as Antinius. Nolan's success today means he has no one to rein in his worst impulses. That this movie is filmed entirely on IMAX cameras is both a ridiculous overindulgence and sadly a waste of time. A waste of time because 99% of the Odyssey's audience will never see it as intended. In the UK, for instance, there are 3 screens in the entire country capable of showing the Odyssey in full IMAX. In the US, just over 20, and in Africa, 0. But the bigger point is this: a larger screen does not immerse you in a movie more. Nolan is obsessed with the idea of putting his audience next to his actors in a real location on the largest canvas possible. All manner of practical effects in play. But while the scale is impressive, the reality is that it's all for nothing without good writing. Indeed, Nolan has always had an eye for spectacle, but an inability to capture how people really speak on the page. There's, I think, a reason many of his best movies have typically been co-written by someone else, like his brother Jonathan. Think The Dark Knight, The Prestige, Memento. Jonathan is obviously less accomplished director, but he's a better storyteller. He has an ear for dialogue and a basic warmth, and that adds something to Chris Nolan's calculated, awe-inspiring eye for detail. The two work well together, but without Jonah or a writer like David S. Goyer, who helped with the Batman franchise, The Odyssey is a work of Chris Nolan, which means it's tedious and overly serious, and it fails as both a character portrait and a moral tale. Odysseus, as a main character in this 2026 retelling, is a muted figure, racked by guilt for his role in the Trojan War, and seemingly willing to martyr himself for the sake of the strangers he killed in battle. This is nothing like the character in the original fable, who was witty, calculated, and desperate to get back to his loved ones. Dead soldiers be damned. Without this simple through line, Nolan's Odyssey loses something elemental and turns Odysseus into a character worthy of derision. Then there's the action itself, which, as one reviewer described it online, is like a series of music videos stretched to fit a 3-hour runtime. Here's the Cyclops bit, and the Giants bit, and the Whirlpool bit, all with a deafening soundtrack to boot. Ironically, the independent film The Return, released on a minuscule budget in 2024, is a far better retelling of Homer's Odyssey and a far more thrilling cinematic experience as well. By choosing to focus on the very end of the poem, it takes the time to examine the stakes and ratchet up the tension. Honing in on one small portion of the poem, however, that doesn't do it for Chris Nolan. He has to have his cake and eat it. And with Hollywood at his beck and call, there's no one to take that cake away. What you're left with is a 3-hour montage of Homer's greatest hits, all without the central pulsing beat of the original poem, that thirst for home. Indeed, as Homer had it, home is where the heart is, and charisma and charm matter for nothing without your family at your side. Sadly, our modern Odysseus not only lacks charm and charisma, but he's weak and insufferably conflicted. The result is a 3-hour epic without a hero to root for.